Okay, so inequalities. So this is where x or y, a, b, c is not an exact value. All we can say is it's more than or less than a certain value. Okay, so here we have 5 is less than 7. Now we have signs to show this, to save us writing is less than or is more than. So I see these as arrowheads. So the arrow always points to the smaller number. So 5 is less than 7 because the arrow is pointing at 5, which is the smaller number. Now here we have 4 is more than 2. So 4 more than 2. The arrow is pointing at the 2 because it's less than 4. Okay. Now sometimes you will see a line underneath the arrow, and that means or is equal to. Okay, so here we have x is less than, because the arrow is pointing to the x, so it's less than or equal to 6. So this means that x could be 6, okay, because it could be, or it could equal 6, but it can't be more than 6, it has to be less than 6. So it could be 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, minus 1, minus 2, and so on. Okay, and here y is more than or equal to 3. So y is greater than 3, but it could also equal 3. Okay, so if I said over here, say y is less than 4. Okay, so I know y is less than 4, but it cannot be 4 because it's not got the or equal sign. Okay, so it can't be 4. It can be 3.9999999, but it can't be 4 until I do this, and then y is less than or equal to 4. Okay, so this is just practice, so again, don't be afraid of it. Now in the exams sometimes they'll give you a statement and they'll say show this on the number line. Okay, and we have a number line here. Okay, so they could say, for example, show on the number line where x is less than 3. Okay, so could x be 3? So no, it can't, because x is less than 3, not less than 3 or equal to 3. Now to show this on the number line, this is 3 obviously here, and if it's less than 3 then it's going to be anything in this direction. Yeah, it's going to be 2 or 1 or 0 or minus 1, minus 2, and so on. But we need to show whether this is less than or less than and equal to. Now up here I've shown that if we have greater than or less than, we put in an empty circle. Okay, so I would put in an empty circle. That shows that the sign here means is less than. Okay, so excuse me, if you were just given this number line with this line and the circle here, you could say, okay, I know from this that x is less than 3, but it can't equal 3 because it's an empty circle. If we have less than and equal to or greater than and equal to, then the circle is filled in. Okay, so let's just give you another one. We'll take this off here. Okay, just so that you can see. So let's say we have x is more than or equal to 2. Sorry, that's not a very good picture, or a very good sign. So x is greater than or equal to 2. So I go to where x is 2. Now the sign is greater than or equal to. So I can see here that this circle should be filled in. Now if x is greater than 2, then it's going to be any number in that direction. Okay, and it can also be 2. So let's take this away. I'll try to write it so it's a bit more legible for you. So let's say we have x is less than or equal to minus 1. So I go to where x is minus 1, which is here, and it says x is less than or equal to. So I know that this circle needs to be filled in, and x is less than minus 1. So if it's less than minus 1, it's going to be anything in this direction, and we also know that it could be minus 1. Okay, I'll do just one more so you get the feel. Let's take this out. So let's say we have x is more than minus 3. So x is minus 3 at this point here. But it says x is more than minus 3. So it can't be minus 3. So we have an empty circle. Now we know x is more than minus 3. So it's going to be anything in that direction. Okay? So you can see, hopefully you can see that this is quite simple. It's just getting used to this, the more than and less than signs, and whether they're and equal or not. Okay. So needless to say, they're not going to try and keep it that simple. Now if we go back to here, we read this, 5 is less than 7. Now we can read it the other way, which is 7 is greater than 5. Does this make sense? So if 5 is less than 7, 7 must be greater than 5. Okay, so we can read these signs from left to right or right to left. So quite often what you'll have is this. You'll have something along the lines of x is less than or equal to 4, and x is greater than 1. Okay, so this will be written in a line rather than writing this as two separate statements. They'll write it like this. So x is less than or equal to 4, but x is greater than 1. So we know that x is between 1 and 4. Now if they say show this on a number line, it's really simple. All we do is we go to these numbers. So we go to where x is 1 and we go to where x is 4. Now all we need to do is decide these signs, whether they're empty circles or full circles. So if x is less than or equal to 4, okay, remember up here, if it's less than or equal to 4 or more than and equal to 4, it's a full circle. So here we would have a full circle. Now if x is greater than 1, remember if it's less than or greater than, it's an empty circle. So we go to 1 and we put in an empty circle. Now we know x is between these two values. So all we do is we connect the two circles. So x could be 4 because it's or equals to. X could be 3, x could be 2, but we know x couldn't be 1. Okay, it could be 1.0001, but it can't be 1 itself. Okay, so let's just take this out and we'll give you another one. Hopefully you see that it's not really quite as difficult or as frightening as you may believe. So let's say x is less than 1, but x is more than or equal to minus 2. Okay? So 1, this is less than, so we have an empty circle, and at minus 2 we have greater than or equal to. So because it's or equal to, it's a full circle at minus 2, and then we just connect the two circles. So x could be minus 2, it could be minus 1, it could be 0, but it can't be 1. Okay, so again let's take this out so you get an idea. We'll do one more, and what they can do as well is they can say give the possible values for x. So let's say x is less than or equal to 3 and is greater than minus 2. Now they could say show this on the number line and give values for x. So the first thing we do is put it on the number line. So if x is less than or equal to 3, this will be a full circle. Now x is greater than minus 2, so that will be an empty circle. Okay, so now all we do is we connect the two circles. So here we've gone from minus 2 to 3, which is what we've been given. We've put in the correct circles, so now we have to give possible values for x. So we know x could be 3 because x could be less than or equal to 3. X could be 2. X could be 1. X could be 0. x could be -1, but we know that it can't be -2 because it's not or equals to. So these would be our possible values for x. Okay, so I hope that's helped, or if you're revising this, I hope it's jogged your memory a little bit. But it's just getting used to reading the signs, understanding that you can read left to right and right to left. Okay, because this could be written as, for example, x is less than or equal to 3, and we could also say that x is greater than -2. Okay, but we have two separate statements. So what we tend to do is write it in one line as one statement. Okay, so just practice, you'll be fine, and I'll do another video on the next step of inequalities.